Good morning, Year Fives. I hope you've had a really nice sleep and you have been well rested. Well done to those children who managed to access Teams yesterday for your work. It was really wonderful to see how you've been doing. And for those children who still need a bit of help with your Teams logging in, please, if you need to email us, please do so at year5@theprimaryacademy.com to help you to access your work that is now on Teams. All right. So we're going to carry on reading our Stig of the Damp book today. Those children who have their Reading Eggs accounts, you can log on to Reading Eggs and you can do your next lesson. But for those of you who are busy reading with me, will you make sure that you have everything ready? And I would suggest that you do have a pen or a pencil and a piece of paper for this lesson. And then at the end, you will need to then write the answers down on the Teams channel. So we're going to carry on reading again. If you would like to read with me out loud, or if you would like to mute me and then carry on reading yourself, okay? So I'm just going to read from the previous page that we read yesterday so that you know where we're following, and then you can follow with me. So it was not afraid of sharp-toothed foxes or other animals that fought back. Right, you can carry on reading with me now. But Stig smelt like a man, and it had never been heard of a man biting a dog. It turned and made off yelping with its tail between its legs. Barney looked at Stig. I think we better go home, he said. We're supposed to be fox hunting, and what have you done? Killed a pheasant, helped a fox, and bitten a hound? What are you going to do next? I'd like to know. But once again, Stig was not listening to Barney. He was hearing something new, the thud and squelch of heavy hooves moving through the woodland glades. And perhaps he was smelling another animal smell. The horses of the hunt followers were moving through the wood, and now at last Stig's face was alight with the excitement of the hunt. Without a sound or a look to Barney, he slipped into the undergrowth and started flitting from thicket to thicket and tree trunk to tree trunk towards the sound of the horses. An arrow already strung in his bow and held with his left thumb, Barney followed as best he could through the undergrowth with a feeling that something had gone badly wrong with his hunting trip and that something far worse was going to happen any moment. Stig seemed to pass through the banks of bramble without feeling or caring for scratches, but Barney's mackintosh was always getting caught and ripped, and low branches snatched his hat off, and his rubber boots did not save his knees from scratches. And the more he tried to keep up with Stig, the hotter and crosser he was getting. When he came to an open space at last and saw Stig and saw what he was doing, all he could do was cover his face with his hands and moan softly to himself, Oh, no, 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 no. Standing in the track where the huntsman had left it to go into a thicket on foot was the huntsman's white horse. Hiding behind a mossy stump, his eyes blazing with excitement, his bow bent into the fall with an arrow pointing, his bow bent into the fall with his arrow pointing straight at the white horse was Stig. Stig was really hunting now, and to him, horses were meat. Oh dear. Lou sat on her pony at the edge of the wood. On one side, the black trunks of the trees dripped sadly, and the wind moaned in the branches. On the other side, low, ragged clouds swept over the bare stubble fields. Around her were various ladies, gentlemen, and children of the hunt. On board or fidgety horses, waiting around for something to come out of the wood. They had waited by a field of cabbages and found nothing. They had waited by a field of turnips and seen a hare. They had jogged along lanes and tracks and waited by a copse, but they still hadn't found a fox. Lou's cheeks were glowing, and so was her nose. Her eyes were sparkling, her hair hung down in wet strips, and her numb fingers could hardly feel the reins. Flash, the pony, who in his younger days at least used to live up to his name, stood in a puddle with lowered head and blew steam from his nostrils into the damp air. First time out with hounds, young lady? Asked a hearty lady on a big black mare. Lou smiled and nodded, and a little shower of drips fell from the peak of her cap. Enjoying yourself? Asked the lady. Yes, thank you. Super, replied Lou. All the same, she thought, if only they'd let me go into the wood and poke around a bit, I'm sure I could find a fox. There must be something going on in there. At that moment, out of the wood came the shrill neighing of an outraged horse. All the waiting horses pricked up their ears. Riders nervously shortened their reins. There seemed to be a sort of commotion among the riders that had gone some way into the wood. Horses were backing, rearing, turning in spite of their riders, snorting and neighing, and into the thick of them plunged the huntsman's white horse, riderless, eyes rolling and nostrils wide with alarm. Cantering into horses and riders and sending them sprawling in puddles and mud. It was a stampede. As the huntsman's horse bolted through the middle of them, all the other horses whipped round and joined it in mad flight. Most of the riders were caught off balance. Some lost their hats, some lost their reins or stirrups, some lost their seats straight away and were left on the edge of the stubble. Some of them who had been round the corner of the wood thought the fox had gone away and urged their horses after the rest of the field. All Lou could do was stay on top of Flash as best as she could and join the stampede. So this was hunting, she thought. Though thinking was difficult at full gallop in the middle of a lot of other excited animals, yet even then she had a feeling that there was something queer. Why wasn't the huntsman on his horse? And had she imagined it, or had she seen, sticking into the saddle of a bolting horse, something that looked like an arrow? And Lou was never quite sure whether or not she had seen out of the corner of her eye at the tail of a hunt, a very odd creature indeed, coming whooping out of the woods. Had it been naked or mud spattered? Did it have hair like a tangled bramble bush? Did it have rabbit skins round its middle and a sort of tail of feathers behind? And could it have been brandishing a bow and arrow? No. If one was old enough to go hunting, one was really too old to believe in goblins and things. She must have imagined it. The hunt eventually scattered itself in all directions over the countryside. Riders at last reined in their blown horses and found themselves alone or in small groups in remote stackyards. They decided they'd had a good day's sport and went home. Nobody was quite sure what happened to the hounds or the fox, but it had been a good run. Okay, so we're going to be looking at our skill today, and we're going to be using our inference skill. Okay, remember inference is when we have to use clues that are further in the text. It's not quite obvious. It's not like a retrieval question where we can just find the answer and pluck it out of the text. This is where we have to use our understanding, our common sense, and read between the lines in order to decode and understand the question in order to get the answer. Okay, so we're going to be looking at the evidence skill, all right, which is this one over here. Now remember, our steps to success is the fact that we need to underline our key information, which is always important, using our own knowledge and clues given in the text, and then use the evidence to support our answers. Right, so this is just a bit of a recap. We have been looking at evidence over the past couple of weeks and why this is important. So it says when we read any text, we must take in the information and process, work out what it has told us. This could be finding out what happens to Greg in Diary of the Wimpy Kid, or it might be learning about how the Normans were invaded in an information text. We're given multiple pieces of information in any text that we read. We can use these as evidence to back up our opinions or to prove a point, okay? So as a starter here, to be able to support your answers with evidence from the text, you first need to be able to find where the answer is. So it's going to be very helpful for you if you are able to skim or scan for your key ideas linked to this question to help you to find your answer. So it says, for example, how do you think Johnny was feeling after his grandfather left? Use the evidence to support your answer. Now, we're not looking for the answer here. We are looking for how can we decode this question so that we can answer it to the best of our ability. So it says, for example, the question above, I would skim and scan for any words that are linked to feelings, because here, very important when we are underlining our key words and we are making sure that we are understanding the question, because 90% of you don't understand what the question is asking and you then write an incorrect answer. Okay, so it's very important that you first understand the question. So I'm wanting to look for a feeling. Oh, you can't really see that color. Let's see if this is better. There we go. I'm wanting to look for a feeling. Okay, so in your answer, you need to make sure that you have written down a feeling, not an action. Okay, not a person's name, but a feeling. And something to do about the fact that his grandfather left. And then you're going to use evidence to support that answer. Okay, so you would skim and scan for any words linked to feelings, and his grandfather leaving. All right, so that is your keywords there in that question to help you to understand it. So let's have a look at this one. It says, for the qualifying questions, which keywords and ideas would you search for? So I would like you to pause the video and have a think now, which keywords would you highlight if you were given this text? Okay, remember, I'm not giving you the paragraph to read or the text to read. This is just the question. And I just want you to see what skills could you then apply to underline the keywords in these two questions. So pause the video and have a go at answering those two quick questions. So super Dop, let's see how you did, okay? So it says, did you choose the correct keywords to skim and scan for? So the first one says, how does the hedgehog behave when it is in danger? All right, so the word danger would be one of our keywords here. All right, so I'm going to be looking in the text and scanning the text for something to do with the hedgehog being in danger. Then you could look for any description of the hedgehog's behavior or actions, okay? Because I'm looking for behavior, I'm looking for an action now. So how did he behave? So what did he do when he was in danger, okay? So those would be your keywords: behave, looking for an action now, and something to do when it is in danger. So looking for when something is a dangerous situation for a hedgehog to be in. Right, the next one says, explain how the author shows that the creature is friendly. Okay, so I'm looking at something to prove that this creature, whatever I've read, has got the ability to be friendly. Okay, so that would be my key word that I'm looking for. All right, and also would suggest that it could be some sort of a behavior. How is he acting friendly? Or perhaps maybe he says something. Okay. Right, so it says, how do I include evidence in my answer? So we're going to have a structure PEE. Right, so now this is generally a 3-mark question, and you often get 3-mark questions and 2-mark questions, all right? So when they're looking for 3 marks, you need to need the point, the evidence, and then explain your answer. Whereas a lot of the time, you'll probably just see 2-mark questions, and that is just giving the answer and then using the evidence to support that answer. So we're going to be looking at a mixture of these two over the next coming days. Right, so it says when you answer, you'll write it in 3 sentences if they are looking for 3 marks, okay? And that's why I say look at the mark allocation, because the mark allocation would then tell us if you're looking for 2 or 3 marks. So the first sentence is where you make your point. You just answer the question. How is he feeling? Scared. How is he acting? Nervous, okay, nervous. So think about the point, just answer the question. Then you need to go and look for evidence in the text to support your answer, okay? And then you can use that evidence to explain your reasoning why you have chosen that word. So let's have a look at some examples. Here we go. It says, as far as Pavel was concerned, it had been a disastrous morning. His intention had been to confront Mr. Bradwell about the effect the new road was going to have on the environment, not in an aggressive manner, but hopefully in a way that would prick his conscience. The reality, however, had been very different. After Pavel had poured out his carefully rehearsed argument, there had been an awkward silence. Then, with a mischievous smile, Mr. Bradwell had pulled out a detailed plan of the road. There in the corner was an official stamp declaring approved by Pavel's dad. So it says, how do you think Mr. Bradwell was feeling after being confronted? So here would be my keyword. I'm looking for a keyword. I'm looking for a word that's going to tell me how I could feel and use evidence. So you've got to answer that. How do you think he was feeling using the context of this paragraph? So he was feeling what we call quite smug, okay, or pleased with himself, like, nah, ha, ha, your dad has given approval already for me doing the road, okay? So he's feeling very pleased, very smug, okay? And how do we know this? It says there that in the text, it says he has a mischievous smile. Mr. Bradwell had pulled out a detailed plan of the road, and this shows us that he knows that he can't get into trouble because it wasn't him who approved the plans, okay? So there is our point. There is our evidence from the text, And there is how we can explain our evidence and our point. Here are some other words that are useful when we're trying to explain our reasoning. So once we've given our point and our evidence, we can then say, this suggests that, or this implies that, this tells us that he is happy, or this gives us the impression that he is happy, or this helps the reader understand that, and this creates the effect. So these are some sort of sentence openers, if you would like, that are going to help you. So for example, in this example, it says, the text says, okay? Another word is the text tells us, all right? So it's just some sentence openers to help you when you're looking for those 3-mark questions to really explore it. Right, so your turn now. You are going to read this, and then you are going to think about, how do you think Sasha felt about the songwriting competition? Use evidence to support your answer, okay? Now this would be for 3 marks, and I put a little star here because sometimes if we're looking for 3 marks, we would need the explain. Other times, we're just looking for 2 marks, which is our point and our evidence, all right? Now remember, we need to look at our key words. So what key words would I be wanting to highlight in there? And hopefully you've already started to realize that there's that word felt. So I'm looking for a feeling, okay? And I'm going to be looking around something about the songwriting competition. So pause the video now and see if you can do that one on your own. Right, let's see. How did you do? So it says here, how do you think Sasha felt? So we need to have a feeling that's going to answer that question. So we need to give our point. Okay, I think that Sasha was feeling quite daunted. Maybe you could use the word overwhelmed as well. Okay, ending to the fact that it was a lot. Okay, it was a lot for her, this person. And I would say probably like if you wrote something like overwhelmed by it, daunted means the same thing. And not really sure where to start. The text says she pursed her lips, ready to whistle, but nothing came out. And this shows us that she wasn't feeling very confident to start this task as she started to think of an initial idea. So if you had something on the lines of that, then well done. If you just gave me a point, like a feeling, you could get 1 mark. If you gave me the point and you gave me some evidence to support the point, you can get 2 marks, and then all 3 marks. Right, so today, these are all 2-mark questions, all right? So I am going to do the first one with you. And those children who've got teams, what I suggest you do is you write the answers. There's 4 questions. You write the answers on your piece of paper, and then you go onto teams, and then you write the answers in. Otherwise, you're going to have to be coming backwards and forwards, and it's going to probably get a bit much for you. So I suggest that if you have teams, you will need to write your answer on a piece of paper and then go and answer it on the team's assignment that is on the reading channel, okay? And that just helps you. Then you're not having to do come back to the video every time. So question number 1 we'll do together, all right? So you can all answer this with me, and then you can copy that into question number 1 on Teams. For those children who don't have Teams, you will then just write the answers and take a picture and send it to year 5 at the primeracademy.com email address for us to see. So question number 1 says, what do you think the dog felt after Stig had bitten him? So first of all, I need to think about my key words. So I'm looking at the fact that there's a feeling that I'm wanting to get, and it says that the dog felt, okay? So quite importantly, I'm looking for something to do with the dog's feeling when Stig had bitten him, okay? Or I remember Stig had bitten the hound, and we're going to see about the evidence to support our answer. So first of all, I need my points, okay? So you can write number 1 and just write the answers, but I'm going to break it up for you. So the point is, right, what is the feeling? That is the first bit that I need to answer. So the feeling, and I'm going to go read this page here, and I'm going to decide, I'm going to go look for something about the fact that Stig had bitten him. So if I read here, Stig smelled like a man and had never heard of a man biting a dog. Here we go, biting. It turned and made off, yelping with its tail between its legs. Okay, so how do you think this dog felt once Stig had bitten him? Probably quite scared. If you've seen a dog run before with tails between its legs, it generally indicates that the dog is quite scared, okay? So scared is a feeling. Remember, you got to check. Have I written a feeling? Yes. And what is now my evidence to support that? It says it turned and made off yelping with its tail between its legs. So you could literally underline or highlight that in the text that you would have in front of you in future. And you would just write that in it. It says the dog made off yelping with its tail between its legs. Yelping with its tail between its legs. Okay, let's bring this all over. And that would be with your 2 marks, okay? So today we're going to just look at 2-mark questions, and we'll be looking at 3-mark questions a bit later, but that would give you your 2 marks, all right? Now you can just answer it as in, that's just showing your point and your evidence. You could just say, he was scared. And this is your answer, like this. And then it says, and then you would just add in your evidence. Okay. And then that would be your answer. All right. So that's how you would then write it on your piece of paper. Scared, because it says, we can even say because it says the dog made off yelping with its tail between its legs. Okay. And that is worth your 2 marks. You've given me the feeling and you've given me the evidence. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through the next 3 slides. You can pause it and then write it on your piece of paper and then go onto Teams if you can log onto Teams and copy your answers onto the assignment for today. And don't forget to write number 1, which I've given you. So I should see everybody writing this answer as question number 1. If you need to pause the video to quickly copy down number 1, do that now and then unpause the video and then do the rest of the slides. Right, here is question number 2. So write this down on your piece of paper. Do you think Stig was used to walking through the bramble bushes? Provide evidence to support your answer. Okay. So yes or no would be my answer. And then give me evidence from the text. So pause the video and answer this number 2. Question number 3, what were the riders feeling when the huntsman's horse bolted through them? Okay. All right, all of a sudden there was this horse that went through them. How do you think they would be feeling? So again, my keyword there is a feeling, and provide evidence to support your answer. All right, so read the text and see which one of those would give you information as to how he was feeling, they were feeling. Okay, so pause the video and answer question number 3. And the last question for today, how did Lou react when she saw Stig? Okay, remember how did she react? What did she do? And give us evidence to support that. So have a little read here in this paragraph over here about Lou and tell us, how do you think she reacted? What did she do? And what did she even think to herself? Okay, so have a go at answering that one. That was a little bit more tricky. You have to really think now, using those inference skills to understand how to answer that question. All right, and that is all for today. So once you finish those 4 questions, you are going to go and log into your Teams account, go and do the assignment, copy down those 4 answers, and then submit it for us to give you feedback. And those children who don't have Teams, will you take a picture of your work and send it to the year 5 at the primeracademy.com email. Great job, guys. Keep up the good work. Keep working hard. All right. And I will see you a bit later.